The straw poll today, it's I think most people who even like follow the league probably would have guessed that Embiid would have been ahead. So I think the two things I would say that are the most interesting about it, one, and this can't be ignored, like the margin that he's ahead by right now. It's not like, wow, like Embiid's ahead, but this could be nip and tuck down the stretch. Like he's way ahead in the voting. He's way ahead for me. Like when I project this out, he's way ahead in a lot of stuff. He overtook EPM, estimated plus minus, which is like one of the best player measurements in terms of like individual player value. It's like him and then SGA and then a giant gap and then Jokic now. Like it's just the way this is taking shape. This poll makes sense. It reflects what's happening in the league this season. So I'm happy to see it, honestly. So interesting thing, number one, I would guess is just the margin. And like, is this going to be a laugher? Which we have to ask. It's very early in the season. It's very likely that Embiid, and let's be honest, like Embiid played a very soft schedule for the 2 weeks leading up to the polling for this award. Played the Pistons twice, played the Hornets twice, played the Wizards. Like you're going to run up the score in those games, which he did. And so, okay, I understand, like had a great game against Minnesota last night, was happy to watch every second, was happy that he did. But like a lot of these numbers are built on these last couple of weeks of these big performances. It's, quite possible that he's going to have a couple weeks where he doesn't play as well and somebody else plays well and it gets a little tighter, but the margin's interesting. And I would view him as by far the most likely player to win the award this year. The second thing that's interesting to me, like I said, actually it's three now that I think of another one. Well, I guess, how about four? And we'll do the second one. Whoever voted for Jason Tatum needs to not be allowed to vote for anything ever again in the history of awards. Sorry. Like what? Like which Boston Globe writer did it? You can just tell us. This whole thing's so stupid. So anyway, whatever. Interesting thing number three, that SGA got nothing, basically nothing. And SGA, like I bet Embiid for a lot, and I have SGA for some. So but I'll be really honest, SGA like really might have been the best player up to this point in the season. Just if it's just like who has been the best player from start of season to December 21st, really might have been SGA or Embiid. You could argue about both of them, and that was not remotely reflected in the poll. That should concern you a lot if you bet SGA to win Most Valuable Player. That's as well as he can play, and he played as well as the two other giants. And he didn't even beat Giannis, who like took off 3 weeks, basically. He couldn't even do that. That's tough. Gonna need a big PR campaign to kind of get back into this and continue playing at this level.
Well, Oklahoma City, though, to be fair to SGA,
that's what I mean.
I mean, media hotbed. Yeah. You know that the campaign's going to be huge coming out of Oklahoma
to be fair,
City for SGA.
They produced 2 MVPs before. Durant won, Westbrook won. Like they've done it, like it's just, if you really want to get the media machine going, like you can do it. And they've been as good as the team has played as well as they can possibly play. He's played as well as he can possibly play fourth. That's really tough. Doesn't mean it can't improve, but like that's a bad, if you bet SGA being like everyone's going to decide like, oh man, he really, really might be it. It hasn't happened yet. And it's not even close. And he's playing as well as he can play right now. I think that's really, really bad if you bet him. And I even have a little bit of him. Can't he beat Giannis really right now? Like, okay, the thing that I'm the most interested in, a betting take, is defensive. So I watched the whole game last night. Gobert is the overwhelming favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. That's because Minnesota has by far the best defensive efficiency in the league. And Gobert's outstanding. He's top 10 in defensive win shares, and his defensive plus minuses and all these measurables are really good.
And he was plus 6 last night, Ken, and they lost by 14. And Gobert's plus minus was plus 6.
He was plus 6 because Embiid got him in foul trouble the whole time and got him out of the game. So that plus 6 didn't end up like registering in terms of the overall. Towns got so mad about, and Towns and Embiid hate each other from years ago when they got in that brawl. Like it's all very funny. So you watched the game last night, and I think Gobert's going to win. Like it makes a lot of sense. He's a 3-time winner of the award. They're number 1 in defense. Team defense is a really strong predictor. Just like I think a lot of people think Anthony Davis is the guy that'll catch Gobert maybe and win. I am very skeptical due to their like lack of team success and his injury history that's like a strong possibility. I would actually say like with Evan Mobley hurt, and that's a big thing because like he'd be the second most likely player. I think it's possible. I don't think it's that likely, but like this is something to follow for the next month. If Melton's okay and the Sixers team defense continues to improve, is he actually like so on top of the mountain right now that he could win the double, which is something Giannis did 4 years ago, which is when MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Now Giannis, the Bucks were number 1 in defense. Giannis was number 1 in every defensive category. Like that's what it took for him to win both. I don't think he has to be first Embiid necessarily, but he's got to be really close, and he's got to be ahead of Gobert. In those categories, there's enough games left that's actually kind of possible, and there's a crazy vacuum behind Gobert for other defensive players right now. None of them materialized. Mobley gets hurt. Jaren Jackson's got all that mess going on in Memphis. Like, there aren't compelling candidates. So, like, that's kind of how Embiid gets in the mix then. So it's a big price right now. Just something to watch, their team defense over the next month. I think it's actually possible that he could win both.
You're talking most valuable player right now in the National Football League. And I just want to get the exact price at BetMGM. The Niners are minus 250 to win on Monday night on the money line, 5.5 in the game on the point spread. And Purdy, like we said, minus 225 at BetMGM. And I see people like tweeting this week, just like on Purdy. Do you think like where he was drafted kind of like hurts his perception? Duh. I mean, I would just offer this historical example, and then we can talk about like what if Baltimore wins on Monday night. Like, Tom Brady is a 6th-round pick in 2000, sits his rookie year, comes in week 2 in 2001, the Mo Lewis famous hit on Drew Bledsoe. Brady literally leads them to the 2nd seed in the AFC playoffs, when they were 2 byes, one of the 2 byes. They beat the Raiders in the Tuck Rule game, go to Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game, and like everyone for Ken, you'll remember this, you're a Patriots fan. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many people remember that this happened. Brady literally got hurt during the AFC Championship game. Yep. Drew Bledsoe came in and like won the game, and there was actually
David Patton,
and there's
right.
And I think David Patton caught so many of those big touchdowns for the Patriots that year. And that literally, like, the whole talk going into the Super Bowl was, should he start Bledsoe after everything Brady had done? So it's like, Purdy's working. Of course, it's because of where he was drafted.
9.5?
More, they were more in the Super Bowl against the Rams? Like
13
and a half or 14. Yeah, in that Super Bowl against the Rams. So, of course, it's where he was drafted. Purdy was the 2nd pick in the draft. Like, what would he be right now if he were the 2nd pick in the draft to win MVP?
Well, what we
First
said
pick in the
earlier
draft
this week. What if he was Mahomes? What if he was Josh Allen and had these numbers? You wouldn't even have the discussion. You'd be discussing another award on the show this week, on every show, not just ours. So, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So I think that's where I'm at on it. I think the sad part is just this was like a really fun betting conversation for several weeks. And now the market feels really dead. It just feels really dead because now,
but if the Ravens win, it is fun, right? Because then there's like a couple different things that could happen, right? If the Ravens win on Monday.
Think about like what a narrow band of probabilities that is, right? That's like 30% of the outcomes are now interesting and 70% are uninteresting. Like, the awards are very fun to bet into when they are not directly tied to like 1 game result, 2 game result at the end of a season, because then they get really easy to price. Like, if the Texans and Colts both win out and all the other Coach of the Year candidates lose a game, then Coach of the Year should kind of be a 2-way with whatever the Colts-Texans price is in Week 18, because the winner of that game might win the division. That winner, like, if you get the certain set of results, then the awards market becomes lame. It becomes just like a fake game market almost, and that's I feel like that's actually kind of what's happened here. So, look, like, Purdy wins, I get my money back. Should I have hedged way more on him and balanced it? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I gotta go back and forth on what the right call was in the moment. Easy to say yes now, no question about that. So yeah, I don't know, but it feels like it's gotten way less interesting. And yeah, maybe there's a conversation about if Ravens win, but like, I don't even know what my answer to that would be right now. Like, certainly not. I certainly wouldn't bet anything right now, assuming that's going to happen.
Well, we'll talk about that a little later in the show. And I guess like something, and look, like, this is not me making a case like to thread the needle of Niners winning on Monday and Purdy plays bad. But, like, you could have a game easily where McCaffrey goes for 200 all-purpose yards, scores 3 touchdowns in the game. So I guess, like, the interesting thing here, right, if we think we like San Francisco in the game, what if McCaffrey is the star of the next 2 games? Like, can McCaffrey, I think that's like kind of like the interesting thing, right, is can McCaffrey catch Purdy? You're kind of like me in this sense, right? We're both like really high energy. I think people are like, whoa, and like, and couple the betting in, right? How did that first meeting go? Like, and you can be honest here. You're amongst friends. It's just the 3 of us, not the audience, or maybe they're here too. Do you think they like you? Be honest.
I think they do. I will say there's definitely a difference between what I would call more, country, rural people and Joey K. And also,
how do you pronounce
Nikki
that
K.
word? Can you just pronounce that word
is that
quickly?
The coach for Nebraska? Is that who that is?
So, Kanish, pronounce the word that is spelled Rural.
Rural people. Rural people.
Like Matt Rule.
I love Christmas music. I start listening to Christmas music probably like a little bit before Thanksgiving.
You're a big Michael Bublé guy.
Yeah, and like actually we ventured like a little like outside of the the Bublé bubble.
Outside of the booble. Yeah.
the booble outside of the Michael Booble. There's a lot going on there.
I need insurance against a lot of these things I'm about to say. Right?
So look, like normally it's like just Michael Bublé, but I gotta tell you, man, we've been like rolling through a lot of like the classics this year. I'm talking Perry Como, Andy Williams, Sinatra, Nat King Cole,
like my 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Dean Martin. I mean, I guess it's got like a month devoted to it where it's like all people listen to, so you don't really need the other 11 months when it's straight through. It's the best. I love it, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess the other thing I was going to say is, I haven't, like, my wife loves Elf. The Wolf. I think I've mentioned this. Like, we saw like an Elf play a couple weeks ago. So I'm a fan of the show there.
It's a lot of people's favorite holiday movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I like it. I wouldn't say I love it, but I like it. I haven't watched Home Alone yet this holiday season. I think I need to rectify that at some point in between now and Christmas.
Yeah. That's our Christmas Eve movie. It's what we try to watch on Christmas Eve every year, especially since we had the kids. It's like presents, like get everything squared away for Christmas morning. And then let's watch like a 10-year-old completely outsmart two robbers who are trying to like, as you do on Christmas. I guess we could watch Die Hard or something if we really wanted to be wacky. But,
Ken could ask his son Ken could ask like his kids like, what's your favorite line from the movie? And they look at him and go, I made my parents disappear. It's like, oh no.